Guys like Ben Shapiro want to make sure you can never hear the other side of the story during a war. Total surrender is not what anyone's ever talking about with these wars. That is just so dishonest and so stupid. It doesn't mean pulling out of a war of aggression that you launched. And that's what we've been hearing for the last 25 years, right? Is that, oh, if anything, it's surrender if you ever pull out.
Dave Smith just exposed Ben Shapiro's Israel First lunacy here as Shapiro goes on the attack against Joe Kent, an honest patriot who stepped down from his position within the intelligence apparatus for telling the truth, for being honest about the fact that it was Israel and its powerful lobby that steered the U.S. into this war and that no imminent threat existed. Dave breaks that down and exposes Shapiro as the Israel First zealot he is in this video. Let's check out what he has to say about it. Please like the video and subscribe to the channel.
Or I'm sorry, this is Ben Shapiro giving his thoughts on Joe Kemp. It's the one that's neocon Ben Shapiro.
And he should stop celebrating these wars because his eyebrows get bushier with each bomb that's dropped.
It is true, but maybe that's the goal, Rob. Maybe that's
is the world's biggest eyebrows?
Yes.
Well, this morning, Joe Kent quit his job at the National Counterterrorism Center and issued a scathing letter designed to undermine President Trump. The letter is deeply, deeply conspiratorial. It states openly that, quote, Iran posed no imminent threat to our nation, and it is clear that we started this war due to pressure from Israel and its powerful American lobby.
Okay, just pause it here. Pause it here already.
Now, that is conspiracy.
Okay, I just love how Ben Shapiro, it's got to be, just think about, he goes, it's deeply, deeply conspiratorial. Deeply conspiratorial, Rob. I mean, this is like the world is flat and made of cheese stuff here, okay? The conspiracy is part one, that Iran posed no imminent threat. Totally consistent with every threat assessment that we've gotten over the last 15 years. So that's the first deep part of the conspiracy, is that annual threat report that says that every single year, he thinks it's still that. This is crazy. And then the second part of this deep, deep conspiracy is that Israel and the Israel lobby have been pushing us into this war. Because but Rob, if that were true, there'd be signs.
like a whistleblower. Yeah, you do have to wonder at what point is it no longer conspiratorial to say that?
Well,
what further evidence needs to exist?
What the standard of would the prime minister of that country visit us 7 times in a week and fucking lobby for this war every single time? Would they go in jointly with us into the war? Would they viciously attack and smear all the opponents of the war? I mean, this is just anyway. Okay, so.
Yeah, there would be sides. This is utterly preposterous, deeply conspiratorial to say that Iran posed no threat to the United States, something that's not even argued by Trump or this administration. They don't even say, hey, any ballistic missiles that Iran has could touch the United States, that they had a nuke. No, that was absurd too. Tulsi Gabbard denied it in her annual threat summary. Even Netanyahu during the 12-day war, a lot of people don't remember this, he was interviewed during the course of that. He wasn't even willing to say that they'd have a nuke within weeks. That was concocted at the very eve of the U.S. bombing by Tulsi Gabbard to sell this. It's just so preposterous. Iran was never a threat to the United States. Israel considers it's a threat, but really Israel is the threat to the region. They're at war with 7 of their neighbors, and then one other country, us. Their war against the United States, it's an information battle. Netanyahu's talked about that. So this is so preposterous that this is conspiratorial that Israel would have supported this war. It's literally what Benjamin Netanyahu's built his political career on. It's what the clean break memo shows. It's what the Wesley Clark's list of 7 countries in 5 years shows. That this was the lead up every single time to the propaganda, and what we're doing now is on the basis of what the Israel lobby wants. They'll talk about it openly. They'll call it a conspiracy theory if you dare to point this out. But when people that are associated with the Israel lobby talk about this, that's just plain truth according to them. So stupid.
That's how Ben Shapiro sets this up. Wild conspiracy. Obviously ridiculous on its face. Don't let the fact that you can see it in front of your eyes fuck with you. Hey, let's keep playing.
Conspiracy trash. It's also kind of strange since President Trump has said that it's conspiracy trash. So apparently Trump is so deeply enthralled to those
Pause it
strange.
right there. That's so Ben Shapiro's first piece of evidence that this is a conspiracy is that the guy in charge of it said so. That's his first. So, I mean, well, I don't know, man. Case closed. If Donald Trump said it's not a conspiracy, then okay. That's true. If Donald Trump doesn't come out and say, I know this war is stupid, but I was pressured into it by Israel and the Israel lobby. Yeah, I wonder why he wouldn't say that publicly. Let's keep playing.
Powerful American lobbies. We're not going to say it. That he apparently has been so bamboozled by them that he's still under the impression that he's his own man. But here's the thing. President Trump is his own man. He makes his own decisions. And as per our usual arrangement, Trump's critics are cowards who are simply unwilling to acknowledge that Trump is the one making the call. But Joe Kent continued, quote, early in this administration, high-ranking Israeli officials and influential members of the American media deployed a misinformation campaign that wholly undermined your America First platform and sowed pre-war sentiments to encourage a war with Iran. This echo chamber was used to deceive you into believing that Iran posed an imminent threat to the United States and that should you strike now, there was a clear path to a swift victory. This was a lie and is the same tactic the Israelis used to draw us into the disastrous Iraq war that cost our nation the lives of thousands of our best men and women.
That's straight truth. And this is just ridiculous if you hear his argument. He's essentially saying that, Trump has his own agency. He couldn't possibly have been steered into a direction in this particular conflict. It's like all presidents have advisors and they give their input. That doesn't take away Trump's agency. He's complicit too. He's complicit in the Israel First misdirect from issues Americans care about to this fruitless, senseless, bloody, catastrophic war that's causing an energy crisis right now. That's the case. It's not mutually exclusive to say, hey, the Israel lobby did persuade and pull Trump in this direction, a powerful lobby, and Trump made the call. Both of those things can be true at the same time. So this is just a stupid argument. I mean, this is an argument that no one would consider if it wasn't for artful dupes like Ben Shapiro acting like it's mutually exclusive to say both can't happen. But they can, and they are. They're happening right now on behalf of the Israel lobby.
Again, the idea here seems to be that President Trump is a moron, misled into war by nefarious Israelis and unnamed influential members of the American media. Don't say it. Again, apparently President Trump has no agency and no thought.
All right,
Hence, letter is replete.
It's just like here, and you can make us big screen while we talk and then come back to it. Yeah. This is an argument that the war hawks use over and over again. And I love how they present it as if this is like even a kind of intelligent, compelling argument. So you're saying Trump has no agency? This is what they always used to say. When I called the Maidan Revolution a US-backed coup, they'd be like, oh, so you're saying the protests on the street had no agency? I'd be like, no, I'm saying that the U.S. poured $100 million into the protests. What do you mean? That like what? Okay, if Joe Kent is making the claim here that the Israeli government and the Israeli lobby pressured and manipulated Donald Trump into something, and your response is, oh, he doesn't have agency, like. Those two things, there's no contradiction there. There's no claim of a lack of agency. Can human beings be pressured and manipulated? Do human beings have agency? The answer to both questions is obviously yes.
Yeah, exactly right. This is exactly right. It's so stupid to make it an either or, but that's what the propagandists and Israel firsters do to try to make it look like, hey, you're just against what we're trying to do here. It's like, yeah, I am against the Israel First excursions into the Middle East, but it's not contradictory at all. People, especially people in power, get manipulated to prefer certain outcomes and certain policy plans more than others all the time. American presidents are probably the biggest example of that. There's too many competing power centers that want him moving in their direction for that not to be the case. If you think presidents are immune from that, you're simply retarded. It doesn't mean they lack agency. They are controlled to some extent by the lobbies and power centers that they surround themselves with, but that's partially due to Trump and all presidents as well. So Dave's exactly right. This isn't mutually exclusive. This isn't contradictory at all. Doesn't mean Trump doesn't have agency, because the Israel lobby has clearly tried to move Trump in this direction. It's not even deniable. Do you think that they don't want a war with Iran? They've always wanted a war with Iran. For 3 decades, they've wanted a war with Iran.
Like, what are you like, Rob? I could pressure you into doing something. That doesn't mean you don't have agency. That also doesn't mean it couldn't be effective. And I could pressure you. I pressure Rob into doing lots of stuff he doesn't want to do, and he still has agency. Like, they present this? It's almost like these they're kind of like drive-by arguments where it's like, hey, let me say this real fast and get someone who doesn't really think it through to go like, oh yeah, okay, yeah, no, Trump has agency. He can do it. Maybe if you want that conclusion already, but like nobody is saying Trump doesn't have agency. This is what actually the letter was saying. Like, sir, you can still turn this around. He advocated the same thing on Tucker Carlson's show the other night.
Yeah, Joe Kent has been more complimentary toward Donald Trump than I would ever be toward him. On Tucker's show, he was saying, hey, Joe Kent is actually, or Donald Trump is actually an expert deal maker. And that's what we could have had if we stuck to curtailing the nuclear enrichment process and creating a new JCPOA. He's actually, in his letter and in his statements regarding his resignation, saying that Trump has agency. He's not denying Trump's agency. But Dave Smith's exactly right about Israel First stooges like Ben Shapiro, especially Ben Shapiro, talks 20 miles a second and makes it drive-by arguments. So you just pass by it and say, oh, yeah, that makes sense. But it doesn't make sense. It's just the Zionist ploy to push you into supporting this war, believing that anyone questions it is a Jew hater, an anti-Semite, or a conspiracy theorist. That's what Ben Shapiro's choice of weaponry to use right now against Joe Kent is. He's a conspiracy theorist. Well, actually, it's the Israel Firsters that are concocting conspiracy theorists right now, that Kent is just an anti-Semite and that's why he's operating in this way. He's just a leaker, they're saying about him. And that's justifying an FBI investigation into him, not into Comey, not into Brennan, not into Clapper, not into any of Epstein's criminal associates like Les Wexner, but into Joe Kent. And they want Tucker Carlson gone too. That's what they want. And this is what it's all about. Monetary-metals.com/vault for monetary metals, because if you care about liberty and sound money, then you probably already understand why gold matters. It's preserved purchasing power over thousands of years while governments debase paper currency. But most people think about gold as something you store away in a vault and forget about, but that just means your gold sits there doing nothing. And that's where Monetary Metals steps in. They built a system where you can earn yield on your gold paid in gold. So instead of selling your gold for dollars to invest, you can keep your wealth in gold and still earn a return. Depending on the opportunity, clients can earn up to about 4% yield in gold paid in more gold. Monetary Metals offers gold owners a way to put their metal into productive use instead of relying on the fiat financial system. It's the perfect hedge against inflation. So if you already own gold or you're thinking about owning some, this is well worth looking into. Monetary-metals.com/vault to learn how you can start earning a return on your gold. Monetary Metals has my full enthusiastic endorsement. It's the ultimate lifeline to protect yourself against the corrupt financial system. Now let's get back into the conversation.
He was like, sir, you can still do this. No one's saying you don't have agency. This is just silly.
Now listen, we should all be thankful for Joe Kent's long and honorable military service. We can also be glad that he's leaving, since his ideology is the same as that of Tucker Carlson, the guy who says that the war is disgusting and evil and who has been busy sexting with the mullahs. Tucker Carlson calls Kent a personal friend and, quote, the bravest man I know. Frankly, I think that it is a good thing that Kent is not in this position. We cannot have a director of counterterrorism who is somehow advocating preemptive surrender to the world's leading state sponsor of terrorism in the middle of a war.
Oh, my God. I mean, just imagine trying to say just like how fucking disingenuous all of this is. This is why I really it's what gets me angry. And it's why I do think it's important that we're always doing battle with these people. Because just think about what Ben Shapiro is doing here. Even when he says something like sexting with the mullahs, meaning like, what? Like Tucker's a journalist who was reaching out to people in Iran, and like that's the job, man. If you can't, that's the whole point. If you can't do that, then how do you ever know what's going on during a war? You need people who are reaching out to the Iranians for comment and things like that. What is anyone suggesting here? That Tucker Carlson was reaching out with battle plans, working on behalf of the mullahs to defeat. No, it's just that guys like Ben Shapiro want to make sure you can never hear the other side of the story during a war. And this isn't to say anything good about the Ayatollah or the mullahs. They're a theocracy and an oppressive, authoritarian government, and they do all types of bad things. But it's just like there's been such a dereliction of duty by the media in the lead up to this war, where, like, as we've talked about before, it never even gets explained that they had promised to never develop nuclear weapons, and that they had a religious ban on developing nuclear weapons, and that they were open to negotiations, and that they were even willing to come back into a JCPOA-like deal and bring down their enrichment. And like, this just doesn't even get reported. And
it's exactly what it is. They only want you to have one side of the story, and it's the side that always supports Israel no matter what, and the war and the genocide before that, and the endless money streams before that. The 35 billion it's received since October 7th, the 350 billion it's received since its inception, while Americans are in debt. Yeah, the Shapiroites, the Lindsey Grahamites, the Mark Levinites would have it so that you never get any alternative perspectives. They don't want that. They don't want a debate. They don't want ideas being discussed openly in a public square. They want Hasbara propaganda shoved down your throats. And they utterly despise the new independent media that's challenging the stranglehold that the Israel lobbies had on the corporate media, which is rightfully dying, partially because of that, and partially because of other lies that it's told us about, hey, COVID and Ukraine and all sorts of things, deep state corruption that they pretend doesn't exist, but clearly tarnishes this political system. So yeah, that's the deal. That is Ben Shapiro's game, to just smear everyone as conspiracy theorists or smear people as if they're secret colluders with an enemy power in times of war. They always use that. In Vietnam, you were a communist if you opposed the war. If you wanted to avert invading Iraq, you were called pro-Saddam. If you didn't want to have a 20-year occupation of Afghanistan, well, you must have been pro-Bin Laden, and you were just a diehard Gaddafi supporter if you didn't want to depose him either. It's the same thing every time. So tried, worn out, and played out, frankly.
And then guys like Ben Shapiro will go out of their way to demonize anyone who's talking to them, so that you try your best to never let that stuff come out. And then for him to say, that, we had a guy, it's good that Joe Kent's out because he was advocating total surrender. Like, Rob, what total surrender is not what anyone's ever talking about with these wars. That is just so dishonest and so stupid. Total surrender, as in, you know what total surrender means? It doesn't mean pulling out of a war of aggression that you launched. That's not surrender. Like, these words have meanings. These are military terms. We're not surrendering to any foreign country. We could destroy the world with like 3 of our submarines. What are you talking about? Who are we surrendering to? Saying get out, call it quits, end it now rather than in another week or another month or another year. Just end it now. And the people who would frame the people who would frame pulling out of a war as a total surrender are the people who would have you in forever wars. And that's what we've been hearing for the last 25 years, right? Is that, if anything, it's surrender if you ever pull out.
Yeah, that's why Ben Shapiro wrote that article, Why the Iraq War is Right for America. He never wants to pull out of any of these debacles, no matter how many people it kills, no matter how much debt accumulates, no matter how much inflation's caused by it, no matter how much America's image abroad is just completely tarnished, and these entangling alliances don't pay off in any way for the citizenry, he considers that surrender. If you back off from that, do the right thing after just debacle after debacle, disaster after disaster unfolds in front of your eyes, as it has in Iraq and in Afghanistan and in Syria and Libya and Somalia and now Iran, countless foreign misadventures for the sake of Israel, for their territorial ambitions, because they want to see Iran toppled. They've always wanted to see Iran toppled. Again, I say this a lot, but Netanyahu staked a lot of his political career on toppling Iran and used all the propaganda under the sun to try to bring that fruition. They were days, weeks, months, seconds, negative years away from acquiring a nuclear bomb. He always propagandized that, even with like comical cartoon bomb diagrams at times. That's what I've heard my entire lifetime. Since I was a young child, he was trying to sell that to the American public. And it is for Israel. They can't strike the United States. And frankly, it's a mistake for U.S. military resources to be there, military bases to be there. They're literally going with the line, the empire builders are, that, hey, they put their country way too close to all of our bases in the region. And those bases exist not to protect us in the United States, not to save the homeland, not to protect your communities and your way of life, but to protect Israel's. This vassal state, supposedly so, yet the vassal state seems to weigh more into our political system and have far more pull into it than vice versa. It's just so preposterous. Americans need to get a grip on this issue to see it for what it is, and many are. There's a mass noticing underway where many Americans are starting to talk about and realize the evils of this toxic and unholy union with Israel for the first time. And nothing exemplifies that more than an Israel first war. And we're seeing that right now in Iran. It's right up in the open. You see it just through the roof. You see it go through the roof when it comes to the propaganda and all that's used to support this. And Ben Shapiro will just completely demonize anyone. They could have had any difference of opinion on any other topic. It could have been on subsidies or welfare state or tariffs or any other issue, but he won't demean them as an anti-Semite or a conspiracy theorist unless it went against Israel, his real homeland, which we would like to deport him to. Ben, make your life there. Leave us alone. Get us out of these stupid wars. And in a way, like, I kind of am glad that they're going with this strategy that just isn't working. No matter how much they call Americans anti-Semitic or Joe Kent a coward or a conspiracy theorist or a lunatic, that is good because Americans are starting to see through that and see how preposterous it is to say that about a decorated war hero with few parallels in the modern military that went to 11 deployments, basically every theater of the war on terror. And you're going to say that about him? He's a conspiracy theorist? That he's weak, as Trump said? No, I'm sorry. Maybe it's just like you're an Israel first fraudster and a blood-soaked maniac. Maybe that's what it is, Shapiro. And that's what you can say about all the neocons supporting this, including Marco Rubio and Mike Huckabee and John Ratcliffe and Tulsi Gabbard digging in her heels in defense of Trump, saying, oh, only Trump can declare imminent threats. Yeah. The history doesn't tell that tale. The history tells the tale that even when Obama was president and you were in the Congress, you were willing to say when something wasn't an imminent threat, like Syria, like Tulsi Gabbard did. And then several years later, selling shirts that said no war with Iran, because she said Pompeo was going to try to get us into war with Iran. Well, the new Pompeo is Donald Trump and Netanyahu, and they have this country occupied by Israel, for the benefit of Israel against us. But what do you guys think? Do you think Dave Smith is right about this? Is there any credence to what he's saying here? Is Ben Shapiro just lying through his teeth? What is the worst propaganda you've heard from Ben Shapiro? And does it have any, semblance of winning people over at this point? This neocon hysterics that we've always seen fail. Let me know in the comments down below. Like the video, subscribe to the channel, also subscribe to Dave Smith. Great segment, really appreciate him. And if you like this video, please consider joining as a YouTube member. You can do that by clicking the join button down below, and doing that gets you immediate access to all my videos before they go live to the general public on YouTube. It makes you a member, and I appreciate your membership if you support me in that way. And also, if you want a free copy of my first book, Compact of the Republic, click the link in the description below. That'll send you off to a website. Just plug in your email there at the box at the top, and I'll send you a full free copy of that book, no obligation whatsoever. And look, I have a few demands from the sinister Israel First regime, and I won't apologize for them. No more war, no more debt, no more inflation, and no more empire. Peace out, guys. Catch you in the next one.